Hello and welcome to this week's energy forecast. So there will be deep healing this week, and with any kind of deep healing there's also an integration process. So healings just don't, happen and then we're shifted and we have nothing else to do. There's an integration to it. So with any healing, there usually is some sort of problem that arises, some sort of drama, a fight, something like that happens. And then you become aware of something that perhaps you weren't aware of, or maybe you are aware of it and you just got a deeper understanding of it. Then the work is to integrate this new learning. So with deep healing, we have a ton of opportunities to make these subtle shifts, but it does take some self-awareness, and it's not our fault that we aren't more self-aware, that our society was more concerned with conditioning us to fit a particular mold instead of being aware of ourselves. It was about pleasing other people instead of ourselves. And there's been this big shift towards self-love. And self-love, what that's really about is understanding the self. So understanding the self, being aware of the self, tending to the self, respecting the self. So when we have these chances for deep healing, and I say chance, it's not necessarily a chance, it's a choice. It's a choice. And I do believe whether or not you make a choice to love or to be in fear, I think regardless, your karma kind of works its way through your life and shows you what you need to learn. But I'll tell you a little story if this is kind of confusing or feels like, wait, where is she getting to here? So it was a couple weeks ago, I was really frustrated and I went out to shovel some so I could move my car. And I ended up slipping and jamming up my shoulder pretty bad. I was pretty frustrated, but I'm like, you know what? Exercise is a big part of my life and I can still, go on walks. I can do, squats. I can do lower body work. I can still do some cardio. I'll be good. So I had a week of tending to my shoulder, which I was doing. And then I was working out my lower half pretty intensely, because it was like, well, this is all I have. I was frustrated about my shoulder. I can't do my normal boxing, fighting that I like to do. So then I wake up one morning with extreme hip pain. So here and then my hip, both really hurting. I was so frustrated. I was trying to get into my acupuncturist. I need to figure this out. What's going on? I know this is an energetic thing. I know when this happened, I was frustrated and I was being asked to slow down. Got it. But now my hip's tweaked and I can't do that thing that I feel like I need to do to stay sane. So what the fuck is this about? So I go to acupuncture. She tells me a little bit that there's just resistance in my body. I'm like, okay, oh wow. A resistance, all right. I'm resisting something. I'm being tense, okay. So she tells me all you need to do is rest. You can ice, you can do whatever, but ultimately what you need is rest. And I'm like, okay, rest, I can rest. So that was Saturday. Sunday, I have yoga, and I do a form of yoga that is a gentle releasing of the spine. So there's a lot of stillness. We hold poses for a really long time and just breathe. And it's a practice in awareness in your body and also finding ease in the stillness. And so we get into Savasana and stillness for 15 minutes, and she scans you through your body and what have you. And I just start sobbing, and I'm like, whoa, like there's a lot of emotion coming out. This has happened to me before, but this was like, oh, and I just started to realize that me not being able to move my body in the way that I want to, well, moving my body has been a form of self-love. Times in my life where I have not tended to my physical body, or times in my life where I was putting other people's needs before my own, because I felt like that's what I should do. That's how I'm going to get love. That's how I'm going to get the approval that I seek. And with that seeking of approval from other people and putting aside the things I felt like I needed for myself, I started to really dislike myself. I didn't like my body. I was eating in a way that really wasn't serving me, putting on weight as a form of protection, just continuing to just have such an aversion to myself. So while I'm lying there in yoga, I'm thinking, shoulder was saying, hey, slow it down, you need to rest, there's some things to process. Then I pushed it, which in terms of like exercising, I'm like, I gotta still figure it out. Push it, hurt my hip. So it is a beautiful thing that regardless if we're willing to look at these areas of healing and really integrate it and trust where we are is exactly where we're supposed to be, if you don't stop and listen to that, something else will stop you and make you listen to that. Because we make choices that continue to show us where we need work. So I'm laying there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so my fear about not being able to exercise isn't about losing muscle tone, getting fat. It's not about that. I'm deathly afraid of hating myself again, of going back to that place where I wasn't caring for my body. You see how that's like, there was a belief going on here that if I'm not exercising, I'm not being good to myself. And if I'm not good to myself, that leads to self-hate. And then I start doing the people-pleasing thing, and I really don't like that. And I was creating all this drama in my body, all this resistance, all this tension. Meanwhile, I wasn't conscious of this until that yoga moment. I just knew my body was saying we need to slow down, and I didn't know exactly why. So for me to be self-aware is self-love. For me to be listening to take these different cues in my life, whether it's an argument with my partner or feeling some sort of physical pain, something, whatever, however this manifests in your life, you are being given these signals to more deeply heal. Whatever it is, you know, the buttons that are being pressed in you by your lover, by your friend, by your mother, these are opportunities for you to shift, to become more aware of yourself. When you're more aware of yourself, you don't necessarily have to get down to the nitty-gritty of like, where does this come from? Maybe that will happen for you. But really what's important is that I want to understand what's really going on here. And so, you know, I listened to the cue to rest. I was in my resting yoga position, and I started to receive that flashbacks of when I hated my body and that I knew I wanted to go to the gym, but that would take away from someone I love, and that's more important to me, to be of service, to self-sacrifice. And let me tell you, being self-sacrificial gives you nothing and the other people nothing. It's like you water your plants and then you go, I don't know, maybe that needs more, and you overwater. The plant's like, yo, I need a break, back off, this is too much, you're killing me here. And you're just like, what's wrong? Why is this not working? And over-giving, self-sacrificing, we do that in an attempt to please and to appease and to gain approval in the hopes of loving ourselves. And self-love, self-understanding is between you and you. So allow the outside circumstances to give you some insight into your heart, into trying to understand yourself. But mostly this week, I'm going to encourage you to take note of the areas in your life where you know deep healing's going on, and give yourself some space to integrate. So maybe that's you getting out of your house, sitting on a park bench, writing down perhaps, whatever helps you digest things. Okay. Because we have these beliefs in us that just are no longer a match to who we have become. And that's sometimes where we feel that tug of war between the old self and this immersion of this new self. And this old into new, it's not like you're a different person. You've just peeled back layers to this being, and you're revealing who you really are. So if there's something you do this week for yourself, I would highly, highly suggest spending some time getting to know you a little bit better. I'll share a personal story, because I do feel like as much as I can talk and channel, I do believe life is just going to teach you. And so I will share with you my stories, my life experience, and perhaps plant a seed for you to start to notice things in your life. So in October, my fiance and I witnessed a terrible accident with someone we love, and that has caused, it was very traumatic, and we're both still dealing with that. Still, coping isn't quite the word. We're still processing that. And it's like grief. It comes up at the most random, seemingly random times. And, this morning I was saying, not just, physical intimacy, but closeness with somebody. When you are opening yourself up to somebody, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, when you're being intimate with your partner, with your friend, with your daughter, with anyone in your life, you are allowing your floodgates to open. You're allowing your heart to open, to be this almost see-through passage so you can deeply connect. And what I realized was that I was feeling this distance from my partner because he and I experienced a traumatic event, very differently, of course, but nonetheless, we both experienced that. It's still very ripe in our experience, and we're still working through it in our own individual ways. And so because he knows that pain is there, there's a part of me that just wants to keep him out, just a little bit outside the circle. Because if I allow him in, if I share the pain, it just kind of like the floodgates open. It's like, oh my gosh, this feels overwhelming. And it's interesting with emotion, we feel like this will be too much. I can't go down this road. This is going to be. So then instead we bottle it up, and we get frustrated. We get mean, we get angry, we get, annoyed. We do things that aren't really pointing to the issue. They're actually pointing away from the issue, right? The issue is here. The thing that needs tending to, not necessarily an issue, but the thing that needs tending to is here, but we focus outward. So I noticed I was focusing outward, and I'm like, oh, again, this is the deep healing of understanding yourself this week. Like, this is not just a page in your book. It is a brand new book of practicing understanding the self. Because this is what's going to lead you to the self-love, the self-respect, the self-empowerment, feeling fulfilled, honoring who you are, going after your purpose, really living it to the greatest extent that you can be living. So I noticed I was pointing outward, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And nighttime for me, like, I get really tired, and I'm just not in a state of being able to work through much. So morning time is usually when I'm processing. I meditate every morning, I write every morning, so it's like really my open, receptive space. And I brought up to my partner that I was feeling this pain, and it was like, it felt overwhelming to say it, but once I said it, and he just held space for me. And I've had to kind of like tell him, I need you. I don't want your feedback. I don't want input. I just need you to hear me out. I'm not trying to dump on you. I'm just need to be heard in a loving, supportive space. Guys, this is what understanding yourself can lead to. These kind of conversations where you say, this is what I need. This is my boundary. And I'm gonna open this up to you. And if I want feedback, I'll ask for your opinion. But otherwise, like, can you hold a loving space for me? Yep, okay, all right. And I let out what I was feeling, what I was processing. I was pissed that this trauma is still coming up. I'm pissed that this is still part of my experience. And what it reminded me of, for my energy forecast family here, is that we don't get done with things. We take little particles from all of our life experience, put it in our little backpack, and keep moving on. Because our life experience, it's experience, and then we have knowledge from that experience, and those together is wisdom. So we actually want a little snippet of our experiences in our backpack so we can move along with that snippet of the knowledge and the experience, because it's wisdom. And with getting to know yourself, with this healing work, that if you're listening to this, you're on the healing path, whether you receive care, receive healing work. I mean, you do right here, right now. You are on a healing path. I believe we're all on this journey in some form or another. It just looks quite different from one being to another. A huge thing about healing that I really hope you can remember and recall again and again and again is that healing and becoming more aware of yourself and of your tendencies and of the patterns that your mind, your ego developed to keep you safe, they're going to repeat. And it's not wrong that that's happening for you. That is how development happens. That's, this healing path, and I use this because it's like healing, it's not quite the word I'm looking for, but it's the best thing I can come up with right now. This healing path isn't about getting it right and swiping off your shit off the table and being like, fresh start again, fresh start again. It's just continuing to take steps to peel apart these things that pain you, that make you that people pleaser, that make you hate yourself, that make you, allow people to cross boundaries. Whatever your dish is, whatever your thing is, this work is to continue to invite you to continue to be aware of these tendencies, and we adjust them ever so slightly. Because I know when I started on this healing path, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, what are all my issues? How do I work through them all now? And I was just like in this rush, and we can't rush this. And there's no point to rushing it because there's always going to be more. See, we might as well sit back and enjoy the ride, because there's no end to our dramas of life and the stuff we're going to have to work through. There's no end. It's going to keep going. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I have never connected that belief I had about not exercising, that it wasn't about, gaining weight or losing muscle tone. It was about, that was a time period in my life from a really young age up until not all that long ago that I did not like myself, because I was a people pleaser. So I would change myself depending who I was around to try to make sure that I felt safe. And what felt safe to me was making sure people liked me. So again, I've been doing this work for 10 years, and I just now connected to those dots. And honestly, it is so Like you can probably see, I'm like so excited. That was such a breakthrough. And that breakthrough looked like sobbing, like really hard for a long time. That class is an hour and a half. And then integrating that, you know, a couple times today, I'm like, wait, what did I just realize? Wait, what was that again? Because I'm feeling uncomfortable in my body. Oh, I don't want to hate myself. Okay, Laura, well, you don't love or hate yourself depending on how your body looks. You love or hate yourself depending on if you're holding yourself back from who you really are, which is knowing that you're loved, knowing that you're worthy, or yeah, just that's what hate is it's not allowing yourself to be who you really are. And so you feel you feel disgusted with yourself. You feel just plain old rotten because you're not who you are, because you think you have to pretend or play a certain role for people in your life. So you end up not liking yourself very much. But honestly, I don't care who you are, what your life's doing, you do like yourself underneath all that. That's why disliking yourself feels so bad, because it's just not who you really are. You do love yourself. And your work isn't about changing the outside circumstances. It's getting to know yourself. What do I need to do in my day-to-day life? Maybe just start one small thing for 30 days. One, because again, we have all of eternity to figure this out, and it's never going to end. There's always going to be more layers to peel back, so let's take our time with it. But pick one thing that's really up right now, or maybe pick something that's a little bit further in the background that's not bugging you so much, but you know it's a thing that you deal with. Choose that for 30 days and practice being aware of it, being aware of your emotions, of your physical body's response to it, of all levels of your being with it. Take notes on it, check in with it every day. And with your awareness, you know, there's not much to do here. It's just the awareness of where does this show up? And then you can even ask yourself, how do I want to change this? Like, what could I do differently? I hate when he makes me that dish. What could I do? Should I just tell him straight out? No, that's too much. Or I hate when he, rubs my back like that. Whatever your thing is, it's like just feeling it out for yourself. Let it be an inside job first, and then start to work your way outside yourself and letting other people know where your boundaries are, what you need. But it's not, I need you to be different so I feel okay. It's, I don't like when you treat me that way. It feels disrespectful, and I'm on this path of like trying to respect myself a little bit better. So, thank you for joining me and this beautiful community of humans. I so appreciate you, and know this is not always easy, and I maybe, I can sense the quarantine blues a little bit. Continue to allow this to be an opportunity for you to have this downtime to work through some things that are really up and ready for your attention right now. And most importantly, I want you to remember, understanding yourself is the pathway to self-love. To understand yourself matters more than anything, but we need to add compassion in instead of criticism and judgment, because that's how we're raised. We're criticized a lot, and so we do that to ourselves. Your inner voice is the critics, the parental role, that teacher that criticize you. That is your inner voice. So, with that being said, we have to be really kind to ourselves, because remember too, there is a little version of you in there, and he or she needs your loving attention. We're not just healing the now us, we're healing past, present, future versions of us. So this is no small feat, and you're not alone. I am here for you, and mind, body, and spirit. I am going to be doing an Instagram live on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. where you can privately, I have you put your questions in this little question box, and I answer any questions you may have. And I don't say anybody's names. I just read your question and channel the answer. So if you have some specific questions, please join me live on Wednesday. And again, I thank you so much. I love you, I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.